Journeys Out of the Body by Robert Monroe. As you move slowly and effortlessly through the cloud, there is music around you. It is not something of which you become aware. It is there all the time, and you vibrate in harmony with the music. Again, there is more than the music you knew back there. It is only those harmonies, the delicate and dynamic melodic passages, the multi-voice counterpoint, the poignant overtones. It is only those that have evoked in you the deep, incoherent emotion back there. The mundane is missing. Choirs of human-sounding voices echo in wordless song. Infinite patterns of strings and all shades of subtle harmony interweave in cyclical yet developing themes, and you resonate with them. There is no source from which the music comes. It is there, all around you, in you. You are a part of it, and it is you. You have had only a glimpse. This is the feast, and the tiny tidbits you tasted before back there had made you hope for the existence of the whole. The nameless emotion, longing, nostalgia, sense of destiny that you felt back there when you stared at the cloud layered sunset in Hawaii, when you stood quietly among the tall, waving trees in the silent forest, when a musical selection, passage, or song recalled memories of the past, or brought forth a longing for which there was no associated memory. When you longed for the place where you belonged, whether city, town, country, nation, or family, these are now fulfilled. You are home. You are where you belong, where you always should have been. Most important, you are not alone. With you, beside you, interlocked in you, are others. They do not have names, nor are you aware of them as shapes, but you know them, and you are bonded to them with a great single knowledge. They are exactly like you. They are you, and like you, they are home. You feel with them like gentle waves of electricity passing between you, a completeness of love, of which all the facets you have experienced are but segments and incomplete portions. Only here, the emotion is without need of intense display or demonstration. You give and receive as an automatic action with no deliberate effort. It is not something you need or that needs you. The reaching out is gone. The interchange flows naturally. You are unaware of differences in sex. You yourself, as a part of the whole, are both male and female, positive and negative, electron and proton. Man, woman, love moves to you and from you. Parent, child, sibling, idol, and ideal all interplay in soft waves about you, in you, and through you. You are in perfect balance because you are where you belong. You are home. Within all of this, yet not a part of it, you are aware of the source of the entire span of your experience of you, of the vastness beyond your ability to perceive and or imagine. Here you know and easily accept the existence of the Father, your true Father, the creator of all that is or was. You're one of his countless creations. How or why you do not know. This is not important. You are happy simply because you're in your right place where you truly belong. Each of the 3 times I went there, I did not return voluntarily. I came back sadly, reluctantly. Someone helped me return. Each time after I returned, I suffered intense nostalgia and loneliness for days. I felt as an alien might among strangers in a land where things were not right, where everything and everyone was so different and so wrong when compared with where you belonged. Acute loneliness, nostalgia, and something akin to homesickness. So great was it that I have not tried to go there again. Was this heaven? Once I tried to simulate there on this world. Gift or burden? Early in the experimentation, a side effect began to manifest itself. It was not an out-of-body activity as such, but took place in states of deep relaxation prior to any separation. It is evidently called in the trade precognition. As I was lying down, my mind stilled and body relaxed, without my volition, the vision would occur. There would be a hissing sound localized in the forebrain, and I would get the sensation of a small rectangular door hinged at one end, swinging downward to an angle of about 45 degrees. This exposed a perfectly round hole. Immediately thereafter, I would see and semi-experience an event or incident like a dream, except that I retained all of my consciousness and self-awareness. The dream would be superimposed directly over outside stimuli. I could perceive both quiet readily. I could not and cannot produce the effect at will. It merely happened or was triggered by some non-conscious mechanism. At first, I paid no particular attention to the phenomenon, attributing the dream visions to release of material from the unconscious. A major event brought it strongly to my attention. It is important enough to take directly from the notes. The basic characteristics noted have been confirmed. many other times in various ways. Still, there appears to be no method to validate such evidence except by personal experience and observation by others. Perhaps this will come in time. Let us see then what we have learned from the proceeding. First, this second body has weight, as we understand it. It is subject to gravitational attraction, although much less than the physical body. The physicist might explain this, of course, by saying it is a question of mass, and anything that can interpenetrate a wall must have so little density as to be able to sift through the space between the molecules matter structured. Such little density implies very little mass, but it still may be matter. This is further supported by the half-out experiment, where the legs and hips were separated, then allowed to drift downward and drape over the bed. The low density mass fell as a feather would fall. Pushing through the wall may be an example also. The initial resistance may be caused by some form of surface tension, vibrationally speaking, which once broken permits the less dense mass to pass between the wall molecules. Perhaps some speculative physicist can take it from there. Second, this second body is visible under certain conditions. To be visible, it must either reflect or radiate light in the known spectrum, or at least a harmonic in this area. Based upon the report in the arms and legs experiment, I seem to be viewing radiated light, but only around the perimeter of the body form. The rest was invisible under daylight conditions. It must be considered too that my perceptual and sensory mechanisms may or may not have been in some heightened or altered conditions which made this seeing possible. The gray chiffon seen by RW under artificial light and in a fully conscious state may be something else again. From this description, they may fall in the reflected light category. Taken as reported, there evidently are conditions where a fully conscious observer can be visually aware of the presence of the second body. What such conditions are, I do not know. Third, the sense of touch in the second body seems to be very similar to that in the physical, i.e., when the hands felt each other, the sensations seemed identical. The same seemed true in the report of the search for the cord. The hands could feel and touch the non-physical self, and it was flesh touching flesh according to the sensory receptors, with the exception of the hair follicle type of skin protuberations. Also, there are indications that the non-physical hands can touch the physical body with much the same result as witnessed the experiment with the return for direct examination beginning with the toes. Fourth, the second body is very plastic and may take whatever form is suitable to or desired by the individual. The ability to stretch out the arms to 3 times its normal length points to such elasticity. Extrapolated, one can conceive of the entire non-physical travel as the incredible stretching out of substance emanated from the physical. The snapback to the physical when the desire or will to stay out is terminated lends credence to the idea. The appearance of the second body as a wavering piece of filmy cloth defies analysis of any kind today, but may again indicate plasticity. Fifth, there exists a possibility that the second body is a direct reversal of the physical. This is supported by the log rolling rotational separation and by the experiment involving the exploration of the physical body as it lay inert. Thought, action, synchronicity. Whereas in the physical state, action follows thought, here they are one and the same. There is no mechanical translation of thought into action. One gradually appreciates the existence of thought as a force in itself rather than as a trigger or catalyst. It is primarily an emotional thought force which is gradually molded into coherent action. It is the thought of movement that creates the action. It is the thought of the person to be visited that determines the destination. Also, it is the supermind's need that creates movement into unknown areas, often without an immediate conscious awareness of the motivating forces. Thought patterns carried over from physical activities strongly influence responses in the second state of existence. It is astounding to discover how many small thought habits one has grown and how embarrassed one often feels at the automatic quality of them. Although no purely physical habits, needs, or desires seem to be carried over as such, minor annoying thought patterns and conditionings appear to confuse and divert attention. The exception to all of this is the sexual drive, and even this is tainted by artificial social standards and the habits they have produced. Relaxation. The ability to relax is the first prerequisite, perhaps even the first step itself. It is deliberately generated and is both physical and mental. Included with the condition of relaxation must be the relief from any sense of time urgency. You cannot be in a hurry. No pending appointments or anticipated calls for your services or attention must clutter up your thoughts. Impatience of any sort can effectively stifle your prospects for success. There are many techniques available for attaining this kind of relaxation. A number of good books cover the subject. Simply select the method that works best for you. There are 3 general methods that seem to work, 2 of which are applicable in these exercises: auto or self-hypnosis. Most self-study books offer this method in different versions. Again, it is a matter of which is most effective for you individually. The most efficient and speediest way is to learn self-hypnosis through the training of an experienced hypnotist. He can set up post-hypnotic suggestion that will bring immediate results. However, select a tutor with care. Responsible practitioners are rare and neophytes numerous. Forms of meditation can be converted to effective relaxation. Borderlands sleep state. This is perhaps the easiest and most natural method and usually ensures relaxation of both. Condition C is a systematic deepening of consciousness while in the B state. This is approached by carefully letting go of your rigid hold on the borderline sleep edge and drifting deeper little by little during each exercise. You will learn to establish degrees of this deepening of consciousness by going down to a given level and returning at will. You recognize these degrees by the shutting down of various sensory mechanisms, inputs. The sense of touch apparently goes first. You seem to have no feeling in any part of your body. Smell and taste soon follow. The auditory signals next, and the last to fade is vision. Sometimes the last 2 are reversed. I suspect the reason for vision being last is that the exercise calls for the use of the visual network even in blackness. Conditions D is the achievement of C when one is fully rested and refreshed rather than tired and sleepy at the beginning of the exercise. This is quite important and not nearly as easy to achieve as it is to write about. To enter the relaxation state full of energy and wakefulness is great insurance for maintaining conscious control. The best approach to take in the early attempts at the condition D exercise is to start it immediately after you wake up from a nap or a night's rest. Aids to the vibrational state. Lie down in whatever position is most conducive to your state of relaxation, but with your body along a north-south axis with your head to magnetic north. Loosen any clothes you may be wearing. Keep covered so that you feel just slightly warmer than is generally comfortable for you. Remove any jewelry or metal objects close to or touching your skin. Be sure that your arms, legs, and neck will relax in a position that will not impede circulation. Darken the room enough to ensure that no light can be seen through your eyelids. Do not use a completely blacked out room, as you will then have no visual point of reference. Absolute requisites. Ensure without question that you will not be disturbed in any way, either by direct physical intervention, a phone ringing, or other interrupting noises. Do not set a time limit or a deadline. The time you spend in the experiment is not more valuably spent elsewhere, and you should have nothing impending that might cut short this activity. Achieve the state of relaxation. Do this by whatever method you have found workable in your own individual case. Work to condition D or its equivalent and hold at the deepest level of relaxation possible without weakening your consciousness. When you have taken as much time as you need to be sure you've obtained this, mentally repeat, I will consciously perceive and remember all that I encountered during this relaxation period. I will recall in detail when I am completely awake only those matters that will be beneficial to my physical and mental being. Again, when you have taken as much time as you need to be sure you have obtained this, mentally repeat, I will consciously perceive and remember all that I encountered during this relaxation period. I will recall in detail when I am completely awake only those matters that will be beneficial to my physical and mental being. Say this mentally 5 times. Then begin breathing through your half open mouth. Establish the vibrational waves. As you continually breathing through your half open mouth, concentrate on the blackness in front of your closed eyes. Look first into the blackness at a spot a foot away from your forehead. Now move your point of concentration to 3 feet away and then 6 feet. Hold for a while until the point is firmly established. From there, turn the point 90 degrees upward on a line parallel to the body axis and reaching out above the head. Reach for the vibrations at that spot. When you find them, mentally pull them back into your head. This simple description must pose many questions. Reach out with what? Pull what back into your head? Let us try another method of explanation. Begin a mental concentration as if 2 lines were extending from the outer sides of your closed eyes. Think of them as converging at a point a foot away from your forehead. Visualize a resistance or pressure when these two lines meet, as if two charged electric wires were joined or poles of a magnet forced together. Now, extend this juncture outward to about 3 feet or the length of your arm outstretched. Due to the angular difference, the pressure pattern is altered. The compression of the space between the converging lines must result in the pressure must therefore increase to maintain the convergence. After the 3-foot length has been established and held, extend the intersection point out to 6 feet away from your head or 30 degrees so that you can properly visualize the exact angle that represents 30 degrees. It may help to mark off a 30-degree angle by protractor on paper and memorize how it looks. Once you have learned to establish and maintain the 30-degree angle outward, or roughly 6 feet away, bend the point of intersection 90 degrees, or in an L, upward in the direction of your head, but parallel to the axis of your body. You reach this point of intersection. Stretch or reach with this point more and more until you obtain a reaction. Again, you will know when you obtain it. It is as if a surging, hissing, rhythmically pulsating wave of fiery sparks comes roaring into your head. From there, it seems to sweep throughout your body, making it rigid and immobile. Once you have learned the process or the concept, it will not be necessary to go through the entire routine. You need only to think of the vibrations while in a relaxed state and they come into being. A conditioned reflex has been established, or a neuron path that can be followed again and again. Again, it is not a technique that can be achieved the first time it is tried. The probability of success increases with each successive effort. The more often you attempt it, the more likely you are to have positive results. However, once you have succeeded, it is not always repeatable at will. There are still many variables that interfere, which have yet to be isolated and identified, but is not work often enough to be subject to continued study. Control of vibrations. When you have obtained the vibrational state, there are definite guidelines to follow. The utilization of this condition on the conscious control is the goal you are seeking. To accomplish this, there are careful procedures to observe. They should, of course, be followed in sequence in the order presented. There is no evidence to indicate that this vibrational state has a deleterious effect on either the mind or the physical body. Here, then, are some procedures that can be applied systematically. They are a distillate of literally hundreds of trial and error experiments. Acclimatization and accommodation. This is a way of saying that you should let yourself get accustomed to the feel of this unusual condition. All fear and panic must be eliminated when you feel waves like an electric shock without pain permeating your body. The best method seems to be to do nothing when they occur. Lie quietly and objectively analyze them until they fade away of their own accord. This usually takes place in about 5 minutes. After several such experiences, you will realize you are not being electrocuted. Try to avoid panicky struggling to break the parallax condition. You can break it by sitting up with great force of will, but you would be disappointed with yourself for doing so. After all, this is what you were trying to achieve. Manipulation and modulation. Once you have eliminated the fear reactions, you're ready for control steps. First, mentally direct the vibrations into a ring or force them into your head. Then mentally push them down along your body to your toes, then back up to your head. Start them sweeping in a wave over your body rhythmically from head to toes, and then back again. After you have given the wave momentum, let it proceed of its own accord until it fades away. It should take about 10 seconds, 5 down, 5 back, for the wave to make the complete circuit from head to toe and back. Practice this until the vibrational wave begins instantly upon mental command and moves steadily until fade out. By this time, you will have noticed the roughness of the vibrations at times, as if your body is being severely shaken right down to the molecular or atomic level. This may be somewhat uncomfortable, and you will feel a desire to smooth them out. This is accomplished by pulsing them mentally to increase their frequency. The original vibratory rate seems to be on the order of some 27 cycles per second. This is the rate of the vibration itself, not the head-to-toe frequency. The pattern responds to this pulsating command very subtly and slowly at first. Your first indication of success is when the vibrations no longer seem rough and shaking. You are well on your way to control when they produce a steady, solid effect. It is essential that you learn and apply this speed-up procedure. The faster vibration effect is the form that permits disassociation from the physical. Once you have set the momentum of the speed up, the acceleration seems to take place automatically. Eventually, you may sense the vibrations only as they begin. They will increase their frequency like a motor starting up until the frequency is so high that you are unable to perceive it. At this phase, the sensory effect is one of body warmth, slightly tingling, but not excessively so. Consistent achievement of this stage is a sign that you are ready for the first physical disassociation experiments. Another word of warning is in order here. Beyond this point, I believe you cannot turn back. Ultimately, you will be committed to the reality of this other existence. This will affect your personality, daily life, your future, and your philosophy rests entirely with you as an individual. For once you have been open to this other reality, you cannot completely shut it out again, try as you might. The pressure of material affairs may sublimate it for a while, but it will return. You cannot always stay on guard against this reopening. As you start to sleep or awaken when you merely relax, the vibrational surge may come without call. You can shut it off, of course, but eventually you become too tired to bother and you are off on another excursion. You sense that you are fighting against yourself. And who wants to fight oneself at the price of a good night's sleep? Release of extremities. This serves to acquaint you with the sensation of the second body without full commitment. After relaxation and creation of the vibrational state, work with either your right or left hand and arm one at a time. This is important as it will be your first affirmation of the reality of the second. With one hand, reach for any object, floor, wall, door, or whatever that you remember as being beyond the reach of your physical arm. Reach for the object. Make the reaching process neither upward nor downward, but out in the direction your arm is pointed. Reach as if you were stretching your arm, not raising or lowering it. A variation is simply to reach out with the hand and arm in the same manner with no special object in mind. Often this method is better as you will then have no preconceived idea what you will feel. When you reach out in this fashion and feel nothing, push your hand a little further. Keep pushing gently as if stretching your arm until your hand encounters some material object. If the vibration pattern isn't effective, it will work and your hand will eventually feel it touch something. When it does, examine with your sense of touch the physical details of the object. Feel for any cracks, grooves, or unusual details which you will later be able to identify. At this point, nothing will seem unusual. Your sensory mechanisms will tell you that you are touching the object with your physical hand. Here, then, is your first test. After acquainting yourself with the object with your outstretched hand, straighten out your hand and push against the object with your fingertips. You will encounter resistance at first. Push a little harder and gently overcome the resistance you feel. At this point, your hand will seem to go right through the object. Keep pushing until your hand is completely through the object and meets some other physical object. Identify the second object by touch. Then carefully withdraw your hand back through the first object and slowly back to normal so that it feels as if it is where it belongs. With this, decrease the vibrations. The best way to do this is slowly to attempt to move the physical body. Think of the physical body and open your physical eyes. Bring back your physical senses deliberately. Once the vibrations have faded away completely, lie still for a few minutes for full and complete return. Then get up and make a notation of the object which you felt, locating it relative to the position of your hand and arm when you were lying down. Note the details of both the first and second objects which you felt. Having done this, compare your description with the actual first object. Make special note of small details which you could not have seen from a distance. Physically feel the object to compare with what you felt under the vibrations. Examine the second object in the same manner. You may not have been consciously aware of its presence or position prior to the experiment. This too is important. Test the line of direction from the place where your physical hand lay through the first object and up to the second. Is it a straight line? Check your results. Was the first object you touched physically located at a distance it would have been absolutely impossible to reach within physical movement? Did the details of the object, especially the minute details, coincide with the notes you have made? Make the same comparison for the second object. If your answers are affirmative, you have had your first success. If the facts do not check out, try again another day. Almost without qualification, if you have produced a vibrational state, you can perform this exercise. You can also practice the following quite easily. After producing the vibrational state lying on your back, arms either at your side or on your chest, gently lift your arms without looking at them and touch your fingers together. Do this quite casually, abstractly, and remember the sensory results. Disassociation technique. The simplest method to use in separating from the physical is the lift out procedure. The intent here is not to travel to far places, but to get acquainted with the sensation in your own room with familiar surroundings. The reason for this is that the first true experience will then be examined and explored with identifiable points of reference. In order to assist in this orientation, it is better that these first complete disassociation exercises be conducted during daylight. Test for yourself your needs in regard to the amount of light in the room. Avoid using electric light if possible. To establish the condition, achieve the vibrational state, and maintain complete control of your thought processes. You are not going to stay only in the confines of your familiar room. Think of getting lighter, of floating upward, of how nice it would be to float upward. Be sure to think how nice it would be, as the subjective associated thought is most important. You want to do this because it is something you will respond to emotionally. You react even before the act in anticipation. If you continue to hold on to these thoughts, you will disassociate and float gently upward from your physical. You may not achieve it the first time or the second, but quite surely, if you have accomplished the preceding exercises, you will achieve it. A second method is the rotation technique, which has been mentioned elsewhere. Under the same prescribed conditions, slowly try to turn over, just as if you were turning over in bed to be more comfortable. Make no attempt to help yourselves rotate with either arms or legs. Start turning by twisting the top of your body, your head and shoulders first. By all means, move slowly, exerting gentle but firm pressure. If you do not, you may become loose and actually spit like a log rolling in water before you can alter the pressure. Such action is disconcerting only because you may lose all orientation and be forced to find your way back carefully in rotation juncture. The ease with which you begin to turn with no friction or sense of weight will inform you that you have begun to succeed in disassociation. As this happens, turn slowly until you feel you have moved 180 degrees, face to face with your physical body. It is uncanny how you will recognize this position. This 180-degree about face is merely two 90-degree turns, and without orientation is easy to sense. Once you're in the 180-degree position, stop the rotation merely by thinking of doing so. Without hesitation, think of floating upward, backing up away from the physical body. Again, if you have reached the vibrational state successfully, this method will surely bring results. Of the two separation techniques, the first should be tried before the second. Then, after both have been examined and tested, the one that seems easiest to you should be utilized. Local experiments and familiarization. Once you have succeeded in the separation process, it is most important for your own objective continuity that you remain in complete control. The only possible way to do this seems to be by staying close to the physical in the early stages. In both techniques, there seems to be a slight click-like jerk when you are again in conjunction with the physical. An exact description of the sensation is quite difficult, but you will recognize it. Always wait a few moments before sitting up after you have returned, primarily to avoid any possible uneasiness. Give yourself some time to readjust to the physical environment. The physical act of sitting up provides evidence of continuity in a demonstrable form. You will know that you can consciously, willfully act in the physical movement interspersed with experiments in the non-physical environment and retain conscious awareness throughout the process. You will have completed the cycle when you're able to separate, return to the physical, sit up and note the time, go back to the separation process and return to the physical a second time, all without loss of conscious continuity. The notion of the clock reading will help in this. The next step in familiarization is to separate to a slightly farther distance, applying the same procedures. Any distance up to 10 feet will do. Always keep mental concentration on a single purpose without stray thought patterns, especially in these extended exercises. After you have become accustomed to the feeling of being more apart, mentally tell yourself that you can see. Do not think of the act of opening your eyes, as this may well transmit you to the physical and diminish the vibrational state. Instead, think of seeing that you can see, and you will. There will be no sensation of eye opening. The blackness will just disappear suddenly. At first, your seeing may be dim, as if in a half light, indistinct, or myopic. It is not known at present why this is so, but with use, the vision will become more sharp. The side of your physical body lying below you should not be unnerving if you have applied the previous exercises. After you're satisfied that is you lying there, visually examine the room from the perspective of your position. Mentally move slightly in one direction or other, slowly and never violently. Move your arms and legs to reassure yourself of your mobility. Roll around and cavort in the new element if you wish, always staying within the prescribed range of the physical. At this stage, you may be filled with strong desires which can be almost overwhelming. This is the greatest problem you may face at the moment. These desires appearing unannounced and unexpectedly are subjective and emotional, can easily submerge the deductive reasoning position you have built up so carefully. The most important clue is to understand that they must not be labeled evil or wrong. They simply exist and you must learn to cope with them. The rule is, do not deny the existence of these desires. Recognize them as a deep, integral part of you that cannot be thought away. Until you do this, you will be unable to control them. These desires include freedom, Revel in the release from physical limitations to gravitational effects. Sexual contact, first with the loved one, then at a strictly sensory level. Religious ecstasy, varying based on the intensity of early life conditioning, and others that may originate in unusual environmental experiences of the individual. The belief held here is that everyone will have these subjective desires despite the most stringent discipline and self-analysis. What we speak of are those elements far below surface consciousness that comprise your own fundamental character and personality. As has been explained earlier, these elements emerge because you are no longer just a conscious intellectual self. You are perhaps for the first time in entirety. Every part of you will be heard from and must be considered in any action you take. The trick is to keep the conscious reasoning you, the one most cognizant of the physical world, in a dominant position. It isn't easy. Therefore, you will run into problems if you attempt the denial of self. Instead, you must accept these sometimes the mechanics of movement. Now that you have set up the proper controls, including the emergency return signal, you're ready for the most momentous step of all, to go to a distant point and return. It is definitely not advisable deliberately to attempt this exercise before you've completed all previous tests and are at ease with them. It is quite possible that you may have inadvertently gone to a distant point during the early stages. If this is the case, you can recognize the importance of following a procedure. First, set your aiming point. Remember the rule: you must go to a person, not to a place. It may be possible to achieve the latter if you have a deep emotional attachment to the locale, but the experiments to date have shown little success along this line. This, of course, may be due to the personality of the writer. Select the person living whom you desire to visit. Choose someone you know quite well. Do not inform this person that you're making the test. This is most important so as to rule out any suggestion on his or her part. Make the selection before you enter the vibrational state and before you start your relaxation process. Establish relaxation and the vibrational state. Use your chosen method to separate. Move away to near distance, 6 to 7 feet from the physical, with your vision still in blackness. Cautiously think of the person who you plan to visit. Think not only of the name, but of the personality and character of the person. Do not try to visualize the physical being, for it is the reflection of the inner person that will attract you rather than the physical attributes. As you think in this pattern, turn yourself around slowly in a 360-degree rotation. Somewhere in the circuit, you will feel the right direction. It is an intuitive thing, a sureness that attracts you like a gentle magnet. Even so, you can check for verification. Go past this point in your turn and come back to it. Again, you will sense it very strongly. Stop facing this direction. Think that you have vision and begin to see. To give yourself motion toward your destination, employ a total second body version of the stretch, which you practiced in your first exercise with hand and arm. The easiest method is to place your non-physical arms over your head, thumbs latched together like a diver about to plunge into water. With your arms in this position, think of the person you wish to visit and stretch your body in that direction. You may move fast or slowly depending upon the effort of the stretching action. The harder you stretch, the faster you go. At your destination, you will automatically stop stretching without realizing it. To return, apply a similar method. Think your physical body, reach out and stretch, and you will return promptly. Usually no more is required than this. There is some speculation regarding the necessity of keeping your arms in the diver's position. Originally, it was assumed that the stance would break a path or ward off any encountered objects with the hands rather than the head. It does help create the stretching action better than keeping the hand at the sides.